Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to the Fort Salem Library, where we read you your fanfiction. So sit down or don't, relax or don't, and enjoy these stories in a way you have not before. We at Fort Salem Library do not own Motherland Fort Salem or any of the related characters. The Motherland Fort Salem series is created by Elliot Lawrence and owned by Freeform. This story is a work of fanfiction and is meant for entertainment only. We are not making any profit from these stories. All rights of the original Motherland Fort Salem story belong to Freeform. We also do not own Nice Catch or any of its original characters and storylines. We did, however, get permission from the author to read their story. This story was created and written by Silver_Cleo, and you can find a link in our show notes. This story is being read to you by Celine.
Nice catch. Sterling had pulled her away, grabbed onto the loops on her jacket at the last second, pulling her as he went flying alongside Petra and Gregorio, pulling her just in time for the truck that would have crushed and killed her, to crush her foot. Don't do anything that stupid and self-sacrificing again, Anacostia. You gotta live. You hear me? He almost shouted, holding her against the wall. Let's get your foot out and get you somewhere safe. She watched as he shifted the truck just enough that she could slide her foot out, dragging it across the floor. She was flooded with pain, the boot she was wearing acting somewhat like a compression bandage. Ah, goddess, that hurts, she exclaimed under her breath as she tried to stand. Here, wait in this tree cover. I'll come find you when this is all over, Sterling said, taking her weight onto his side while Petra took her other arm over her shoulder. Gregorio, go help the others, he instructed the cadet, who simply nodded before running off to the necropolis. She settled under the cover of a handful of oak trees, hidden on the ground, surrounded by various bushes. We'll be back as soon as we can, and we'll get you to a fixer. You have my word, Petra said. You'll be walking before the day is over. You're soaping, she chuckled, before leaning back against a tree trunk and watching them walk away. She sat and waited in silence for hours, strained sounds of fighting occasionally reaching her ears. She watched as the sun rose over the trees, red and orange coloring the sky as it turned blue. Scourge gripped in tight hands across her lap, ready to fight if someone found her. And find her, someone did. Nessa Clary stumbled into the grove, blood drying on her temple. "Sterling, she's here!" She turned over her shoulder to call out. "Thank the goddess. This area looked completely different last night," he said, climbing through the trees and bushes. "General, we found her!" he shouted. Just then, a very familiar face appeared in the gap of the bushes. "Ma," she whispered, "you're here." She tried to stand, and only narrowly avoided face-planting the floor, thanks to Nessa and Sterling's quick reaction. Her muscles were still from sitting in the same position all night long. "Did you do it? Is it all over?" she asked, once she was upright once again. "There is still much to do, my daughter, but the fight is won," Alder said, stepping forwards, cupping her face with her hands. "I must go now, but if you ever need me, just call out and I'll be there. I promise, my daughter," she said, leaning forwards more and pressing a kiss to her forehead, before turning and stepping away, out of sight. "Let's get you to a fixer, Anacostia," Petra said, holding the bush back so that she could step out, still supported by Nessa and Sterling. "Where's Wick? This feels really bad," she said as she half-walked, half-hopped through base. "She arrived back on base from containment an hour ago. She's already waiting in the infirmary for you," Nessa informed her. "Most injuries are minor. The Camarilla were focused mainly on the necrolabs, With most of the army still in the session, they kept the rest of us in the training halls to be executed at ex-President Silver's order, she informed the group. The 4 of them slowly reached the main part of base, watching as a bat took off from the green, leaving Khalida, Adil, and Scylla standing on the pavement with 2 others she didn't recognize. Maybe the other stewards. They walked behind the odd group and made it to the infirmary. Thankfully, Bridget was able to repair the bones in her foot. The tendons would need a few more hours to repair, but she was on bed rest for the rest of the day to recover. Sterling had chosen to stay at her side, and he spent the morning recounting how Isadora had helped Penelope to kill the slimeball Hurst, and that Penelope had also killed Blanton Silver on live television. Wow. A lot happened while I watched the sunrise, she commented with a smile. We all have our parts to play in the world. You just didn't have a big part in this battle, he said, kissing her hand. Get some sleep. I'll be here when you wake up, he said. And sleep she did.
Please find the fanfiction you just listened to on Archive of Our Own and leave the author some love. Without them, this wouldn't be possible, and we want to thank them from the bottoms of our hearts for creating these amazing stories and keeping the show alive.